And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Monday, December 2nd. I am Josh Engleman here to break down a 4-game NBA slate. Very limited today. 2 7:30 starts, 2 8 o'clock starts. We could dust our hands of it here. We're in and out in a half hour, which really cannot beat. I hope you guys had a great weekend, had a great Thanksgiving. Been a weird stretch of 4 days just because you have that Thanksgiving day, then you're back for the NBA, then we're into the weekend. But now we're here. We're back into another normal week. We've got, honestly, a really difficult slate to break down to start the day. Lots of back-to-back teams, lots of weird injury news that we don't know. So that'll be tough. This will get a lot better for the deeper dive later on today. By the way, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. You should do all of those things. Hit the like button is the big one for me right now. Let's start off December the correct way. First strategy show of December. It's going to be tough to break all of this down, but we're going to do our best to do that to start the day. I just finished off a sim. I want to grab my my top 20 lineups and see just what I'm getting to so far. I mean, this is all very subject to change. I don't have a clue who is actually going to be interesting for today. Let's see. Let's grab my top 20. This is what I would be playing in the 4-point play if lock were in a couple seconds. All right, so lineups are in. Now I'll have exposures, and now we can talk about this slate. I got to touch on one thing that I see in chat first. This is the most important thing that we'll talk about. I'm even going to put it up on the screen. Anybody else here in love with small Egyptian men with beautiful abs? Most people probably look at that funny. I don't. I am also in love with a small Egyptian man with beautiful abs. Shout out Mo Salah. Shout out Liverpool. Beating the brakes off of Manchester City yesterday. Oh, it was glorious. Start to finish, complete and utter destruction. Top of the table. 9 points clear of Arsenal. 11 points clear of Manchester City. I know this isn't the EPL strategy show, but boy, oh boy, are things looking good on the Premier League streets. For me and my Reds. I appreciate that. Your namesake. I love it. Oh, that's not nice. How could you hate him? How could you hate him? The demon at Chelsea. Yeah, nah. I'll just laugh at that. Is Liverpool finally playing full throttle, or is the 115ers just that shite? Both. I think we're obviously getting a down city here, and Liverpool looks amazing so far. Absolutely amazing. Brian Ingle noted the promo on the top of the screen. We will definitely talk about that in a second, which reminds me, I need to do one thing on the back end. Let's see. That's going to be a different folder. It's not that folder. It is this folder, though. Yay. Didn't think I was going to find that as quickly as I did. Not great at putting things in the right spot for when I need them. But now we got it. All right, let's do our best. He's killing you in FPL? He's got an assist and a goal in every single game he plays. How is he killing you? Or do you mean you don't have him? Because that would make more sense. But I mean, nobody in the Premier League has more goals and assists combined than Mo. So I'm just going to assume that you just don't have him. Thoughts on the Rockets being the best team in the NBA? I mean, they're not, and they're not even close, but man, are they fun. Man, are they fun. They're damn good. They've got the depth. They've got the assets in the future. The Rockets are in a really nice spot. I'm really curious to see what they end up doing with Jalen Green. I have to assume, yeah, you didn't have him all season. That makes sense. I have to assume that Jalen Green could be getting shipped out of there in February, potentially, or at least in the offseason. They got a lot to move around. They've got a really interesting situation with Fred VanVleet coming up. That's going to be a real big talking point. Next year, VanVleet is on a $45 million team option. I'm really curious what they do there. Do they try to tack on more years? Do they try to renegotiate if they can, which I don't think they can, now that they signed those deals for Green and Şengün? Do you just trade him and try to get out in front of what is clearly going to be a decline, even more so for VanVleet over the next few years? It all comes down to what number you could extend Fred VanVleet at. But if I'm Fred VanVleet, I'm probably looking at I don't want to go much lower than like 35 or 40 for 2 or 3 more years, and I don't want to be paying Fred VanVleet that kind of money. Oh, Jeff, nice. Taking your 5-year-old grandson to OKC and the Hornets. That'll be a fun time, man. That'll be fun. Yeah, I don't look, the Rockets are in like a really look, we only have 4 games today, so we're going to spend some time on this because why not? It's fun. Let me pull this over onto the screen here. Let's look at the trade machine. Like, VanVleet is legit good right now. But that's a bit of a problem based on his age, based on his trend lines, based on his contract. They'll get off a 12 minute. Actually, they have a ton of salary. So I would not be surprised at all. I could be getting the Fred VanVleet stuff incorrect, but they might be able to renegotiate and then extend. I'm not entirely sure they can do that. There's some technicalities based on the length of the contract. And for some reason, I feel like they can't do that for VanVleet right now, but in theory, they might be able to. They have room, I believe. That might have to happen July 1st. So maybe they can't because they're already up against that option year. But if they want to extend him, he's not going to want less than $40 million a year, which I think is a reasonable stance to take when you're already on it. But I don't love Fred VanVleet's future for Houston because I think he is declining rapidly. I mean, Jalen Green is the guy that you would want to get off of, I think. Because next year, he bumps up. Actually, what did that contract do? Is next year still a cheap year for Jalen Green, or did they change that? Okay, so next year he's up to $33 million, then $36 million, then the player option. That's the one you're probably trying to get off of? Trevor, buckle up, because what you think of contract numbers are going away. When the cap is going to tack on 10% a year for like the next 5 years, all of these numbers are going to sound preposterous. But I think Jalen Green's the guy that has to go. He's the only one that doesn't naturally fit. In theory, you want to try to get Reed Shepherd more of those minutes. Like, to me, Jabari's not really going anywhere. I don't understand why Şengün would be going anywhere. You've obviously got Amin Thompson sticking around. It doesn't seem like Tari Eason is going anywhere. We still have guys like Cam Whitmore lurking in the distance. So I would be trying to do something around Jalen Green. Fred, Jabari, Brooks, Whitmore, and 4 picks for Giannis. That would not be a move. If I were Houston, I would not be angling for Giannis that way. If I were trying to get Giannis, there's a decent chance that I would want him to just be my 5, and Şengün's the guy that has to go in that scenario. Franz is not the MVP of the first quarter of the season, but he was good. But he's not even in the ballpark. Ken, by more minutes, do you mean any minutes? Let's see. If the Rockets wanted to trade Green now, which I believe they can do at the deadline, I don't think that extension does anything. We would need to look at a team that either has space or has another interesting guy, because Green's only making $12 million. Frank, he would not get my vote, but he has definitely been the best player so far this season. And I know that's a technicality, and I know people are going to freak out. I'm actually going to tweet about it either today or tomorrow. My vote right now would be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander if we're just judging what's happened so far this season. But Jokic has been the best player so far this season. But Shai's played 20 games and Jokic has played 15, and I don't think that you can make that up yet. By the end of the year, if this all continues, it's going to be Jokic. It just hasn't been for me up until this point. Let's see. Who would want Jalen Green, and what would the Rockets want back? I mean, like, I'd love to see him on Orlando, but that's not happening. Pistons kind of already have a version of him in Ivy. The problem really is that there's not a natural spot here. Ty Branch, why isn't anybody talking about Harden for MVP? He's not even a all NBA player this season. He has not been as good as you think he's been. Green seems like a natural wizard. I mean, they kind of already got him. Why would anyone not want Jalen Green? I mean, it probably has something to do with the fact that he's never been any good. I mean, there's never the Kings. You've got Fox there. You've got Monk there. That's a straight no. I mean, Spurs, I do think, makes some sense. That's the type of guy that you'd be looking for at least a little bit. Look, I think Jalen Green's natural career is like a really good 6th man. You know, your Jamal Crawford type vibe. I'll tell you what, it'd be really interesting to get him to Denver, but I don't really see the path there. There aren't a lot of like natural landing spots for guys. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely not going to the Knicks. Not that I disagree that like that wouldn't suck, but that's a 0% chance. There's not a lot of like. I mean, let's just do this and then let's get into the slate since it's 4 games. Cleveland, no. Boston, no. Orlando, the fit makes sense. They kind of need what he does, but that doesn't seem like something they would want to do. And his brand of offense is probably going to take away from Franz and Paolo. Knicks is a no. I mean, like the Heat, yes, but like they kind of already got versions of him in Rozier and Hero. The Bucks would love it, but that's impossible. The Pacers aren't going to do that. The Nets, in theory, the Nets could, but like that's kind of what Cam Thomas is. Pistons, I don't really see the fit. Hawks, I don't really see the fit. Hornets, I don't really see the fit. Raptors would be good. I don't think that's the type of move they would make, but the Raptors kind of need somebody that does Jalen Green things. I kind of like that quite a bit. Doesn't seem like it would happen. Sixers, no. Wizards, no. Thunder, no. Warriors, no. Lakers, fit, yeah, for sure. That could be an interesting one, actually. Grizzlies, no. I mean, Clippers could use him. They need a dude like that. If you want to get a young version of whatever the hell you think Norm Powell is. Suns, no. Nuggets, I like. I just don't think they could do it. Dallas, no. Spurs, yes. Wolves, no. Kings, no. Blazers, no. Jazz, obviously, would be an interesting yes. That would be like maybe a buy low on a younger guy type situation. Pelicans, no. I mean, if I'm the Lakers, I make no moves. I think it would be crazy if the Lakers made any move and gave up real assets. Unless it was to get like legitimate youth and just plan for what AD and that guy is going to be. Middleton is not untradeable, though. That's the only thing I want to land on here. But he's untradeable, or he's tradable for a different reason. Player option for Chris Middleton next year at $34 million. I mean, I'd be shocked if he's getting anything like that. So that would be the interesting piece of it here. John, they don't need a stretch big. They've got one already. His name is Victor Wembanyama. I agree in their future in Castle defensively. I don't think you could bank on Devin Vassell, given how unhealthy he has been forever. An actualized version of Vassell, I'm with you. But Middleton's very easily tradable right now because of his contract. And I would not be touting Sohan as a part of their future. That's not a thing to me. Great defensively. What they kind of, honestly, what the Spurs really need, and to a degree, this is kind of Sohan. The Spurs kind of need a PJ Tucker, the guy that can space the floor as a. Maybe that's where you're going here. The stretch big version that can guard fives, but isn't a five. It doesn't have to offensively be a five. I think that's kind of more what they need. Jones, what's that in reference to? So not good means probably never make an all-star team. Yeah, John, I don't disagree with that at all. I guess they kind of want that to be Sohan, but I don't think that's the fix they want. Look, if Sohan's going to shoot 28% from three, he's never a starter. Lord Kingu, he's not that. Defensively, yes. But we're talking about a guy that is a complete zero offensively. He shoots 68% from the line. He can't shoot threes. He can't shoot at all. That versatility is a problem. It really doesn't matter what the Lakers do. It really doesn't. They have no ability to do anything. They have the ability to make deals, but they don't have an ability to be any good. All right, I've burned 20 minutes. We've got 40 to get through the rest of this slate. Let's do it. The problem with this slate, and the reason that I didn't want to dive into this immediately, is that we have 8 teams today. The Heat are on a back-to-back. The Celtics are on a back-to-back. The Pelicans, the Nets, and the Lakers. And that's tough. Mike W. The Rockets would never, ever, ever do that deal. If they're trading Jalen Green, they're not getting John Collins back. Frank, they don't. They don't. They're not a good basketball team. And there's not a single deal out there that they can make that can get them to like a shot at working their way through the West, that I can tell at least. Jones, I feel like you're looking at him shooting 68% from the line as like not a bad thing. Yeah, not in the AM, bro. We don't normally agree, but I'm with you there. Not for what the Rockets want out of that role. All right. Hard to read, Frank. I appreciate you being here. It's not slander when it's true. It's just true. The reason that I say that he's 68% from the line is that if you can be a good free throw shooter, that usually portends that three-point shooting can come around, but 25% from three so far this season in the 7 games for Sohan, 31% last year, which is 19th percentile. Also 33% from mid-range last year, 11th percentile. He's atrocious offensively. Atrocious. Yeah, the Rockets are early. The Rockets are just early. Their goal is not this season. Their goal is like 2026 or a big 2025 offseason. Anyway, let's do Pelicans. Let's get into this. Guys, I could do this kind of show for an hour easy. You guys know how much I want to do trade deadline stuff. This is what I know more than anything. The transactional nature of the NBA. Now, I don't know how the hell to talk about the Pelicans. This is basically as big of a crapshoot as we could have. So they're on a back-to-back. So we don't know their injury report. Yesterday, Jordan Hawkins didn't play. Ingram was out for his 4th straight. Zion's obviously out no matter what. Seems like Herb Jones is out no matter what. Seems like Alvarado's out no matter what. But I have no idea if Jordan Hawkins can play today or not. I have no idea if Brandon Ingram can play today or not. So we do have some ambiguity for the Pelicans. Jake, do I have interest in getting into a front office? Sort of. Like, I don't have enough interest to just like put the pedal to the metal and go for it. But like, if this job went away tomorrow, I'd look into it. I'd give it a shot. Boss, I'm definitely doing a trade deadline show. Yeah, like I would definitely take the shot. I would send Daryl Morey the DM. He follows me. We've DM'd once. It was fun for me. Got the old Daryl Morey follow like 2 years ago, I think, maybe 3 years ago now. Hit him with the thanks for the follow. Love your approach. Go Sixers. He responded, said thanks. Appreciates what I say. Don't know how that happened or why that happened, but it happened. True story, 100%. But yeah, I would slip into Daryl Morey's DMs and say, hey man, can I work for a year for no pay whatsoever and try to learn this? What's my biggest difference in the lines today, says Mike. So they're all different. And I don't want to read. That's part of the problem with today. The Pelicans are 9.5-point dogs in Atlanta. I have the line at 7.5, and that's with Ingram out. So I don't have a great feel for what's going on here. Maybe this line moves around. Maybe I don't know. I don't have a great feel here. But what I do know are the things that I'm expecting today. Trey Murphy is projected for 40% owned on DraftKings, 20 on FanDuel. I got to 55% of him. And I completely agree with the ownership. He looks great. He's playing like 34 minutes a night when he's available. He's 6,200 on DraftKings. That price is perfect. He's $800 more expensive on FanDuel. So I understand why the ownership is lower, but he still looks like the best guy you can get to from the Pels. It's the reverse for DeJounte Murray. So Murphy is 20% on FanDuel. Murray is 20% on DraftKings. But Murray is also 50% owned on FanDuel because he's $400 cheaper there. So I got to 40% of Murray on DraftKings and 55% of Trey Murphy. Those two guys stand out today basically no matter what news we get from the Pelicans. Ingram can play. Any one of those other guys can play. These guys are just going to look good because they're going to play big minutes and they're not priced the way they should be. After that, it gets a little tough. Yves Missi on DraftKings is 13% owned. And for the most part, I agree with that. 5,100 center only. He's $6K on FanDuel, $900 more expensive. I don't really know how you can do that. CJ looks totally reasonable in that like 10 to 15% owned range. I didn't get to a bunch of him, but I understand why he's pulling some ownership. After that, you're not going to Green or Boston or JRE or Elfrid Payton or Jamal Cain or Daniel Tice. Our focus is going to be heavy on Trey Murphy and DeJounte Murray with a closer look on CJ McCollum on both sites and Yves Missi on DraftKings. That's a great question, Poker. Poker says, did Murphy play a back-to-back since coming back from the injury? Now, that is a very reasonable question. And one that, I don't know how that is going to work out for us today. Their last back-to-back, he did sit the first two back-to-backs, He did not dress for the game on the 16th. They played on the 15th. He didn't play the game on the 20th when they played on the 19th. But I have to assume that at some point in time, Trey Murphy is going to play back-to-backs. That could be today. I only left him in because of having no injury report. I went with the same rotation as yesterday. I think we're very live to see him not play today. And that's why I'm 2 points off of the line. Because I have the Pels 7.5 point dogs. The betting line is 9.5. If Trey Murphy doesn't play, it's going to move the line around 2 points. So that could just be it. It's everybody that was out yesterday and Trey Murphy today. Or maybe CJ McCollum sits today. Maybe DeJounte Murray sits today. I don't think it's McCollum and Murray. It does seem like it could be Murphy. But right now, we just kind of have to wait till that 1:30 injury report. So it's one of those things where I kept this one. And there are some situations where I didn't keep the same plan from yesterday. But I do think he's very live to not be playing. And that's why I don't want to get like too crazy about any sort of take for some of these teams. Because we just don't have it right now. Now, Atlanta is actually pretty easy to talk about. They do have a Q tag on Keaton Wallace, Seth Lundy, Muhammad Gay, and Dominic Barlow. None of those Q tags matter. It's a probable tag on Trey. It's a probable tag on Bogdan Bogdanovic, which means we're basically getting the standard issue Atlanta Hawks. We're getting 20% ownership to Jalen Johnson and 20% ownership to Trey on DraftKings. I matched the JIP. I think he should be 25% owned. I did end up a little lighter on Trey. I think 20% is like a tad high, but 8,800 is a really good price tag. A really good price tag for Trey Young on DraftKings. Wouldn't mind having a little bit more. But then we're also seeing 10% ownership to Hunter, 10 to Okongwu, 10 to Bogdanovic, 10 to Clint Capella. And I'm getting pieces of all of that. I got to 20% of Hunter, 10% of Bogdanovic, 15 of Capella. I got 10 of Risache, even in 21 minutes, because a $4,200 small forward has a lot of value on a 4-game slate. Now, on the FanDuel side for Atlanta, 10% to Trey, 10% to Jalen Johnson, 10% to Dyson Daniels, and then basically nothing else to any of these guys. I think Onyeka Okongwu looks really interesting on FanDuel. When they are playing someone getting extra minutes, it's usually like Okongwu plays 27 and Capella plays 21. So you can get that kind of day out of Okongwu, and you get the power forward eligibility. So I'm pretty interested in Okongwu as a GPP option on the FanDuel side. And I'm probably a little bit more interested in Jalen Johnson as like a pay up to be contrarian FanDuel dude, but he's $900 more expensive on FanDuel. So I think this is more of a DraftKings look. We're seeing 40% ownership on FanDuel to Atlanta, 94 on DK. They look a lot better on DraftKings. That's probably why I'm matching the field. 100 apiece, basically. If Murray or CJ sit, would that justify Murphy on FanDuel. Oh, that doesn't even matter. He's already justified. He's 22% owned on FanDuel. And I think that might even be low. So if Murray or CJ are also out and Murphy plays, that's fine, but he already looks good no matter what. You can't spell Ricochet? Seems Zach Ricochet. And not even with weird letters. Like exactly how it sounds. All right, game 1 in the books. Tough one. Game 2 is basically impossible. Miami doesn't have an injury report because they're on a back-to-back. Boston doesn't have an injury report because they're on a back-to-back. I've got the game at 9.5. The Vegas line is 10.5. It's also a 220.5 total. And that's the lowest on the slate. I've got it at 94.4 possessions. That is the lowest pace on the slate. Miami loses 1.8 possessions below their average. Boston loses 2.5 below their average. Now, right now, there's no ownership coming into Miami on DraftKings. 7% to Tyler Hero is the most. Now, Hero is much more owned on FanDuel, where he's $100 cheaper and has point guard, shooting guard eligibility. He's 24% owned on FanDuel. Completely agree with it. I honestly can make a case that it's even a little low. Butler got to 12 on FanDuel. Completely agree with it. Should be getting there. But I don't really see much here that makes me happy. Unowned Bam on a 4-game slate, I think stands out as a GPP option. 4% owned to DraftKings, 4% owned on FanDuel. I have his optimal rate much higher than that. But as I look at it, I think Bam's underrepresented just because we're talking about a 1.15 fantasy point per minute guy on a 4-gamer. There's no real competition. AD is on the slate, but the Pels don't have a real center. Atlanta doesn't have a real top-end center. Boston, I don't think, is going to have a real top-end center. Brooklyn's got Claxton, sure. Vooch sucks. AD's real. Gobert plays a ton, but not in the same sort of realm of Bam Adebayo in terms of per minute rates. I think Bam Adebayo is very interesting. Now, I didn't really get to him. I only got to one lineup of Bam, one of Jimmy, one of Hero. Those are the guys that I want to get to. But I do find Bam to be a very interesting GPP piece. If he plays. Now, I expect him to play, but this is a back-to-back. We have no idea what Miami's doing. Somebody could be sitting. 2 somebodies could be sitting. Maybe Kevin Love sits, and you get Ware in as a backup. It's hard to talk about Miami right now, but the good news is, if everybody's in, they're just not going to look that good against Boston. It's a pace-down spot against one of the best defenses in the league. I'm not surprised. They're already they're the biggest underdog on the slate. Let's not forget that. Miami is the biggest underdog on the slate right now. They don't look good. But maybe they get some injury news that creates some value for us. But then we get to Boston. And this one is literally impossible to break down today. Here's what I did to start. We'll see what that does for us. So yesterday, Jaylen Brown was out, didn't play. Derek White was out, didn't play. But this is a back-to-back. Al Horford has not been playing back-to-backs. So I took Al Horford out. I would be shocked if Kristaps Porzingis plays today. So I took him out as well. So I put Brown and White back in. I took Porzingis and Horford out. Whether or not any of that is happening, I have no idea. It's a 7:30 start. We're going to get their injury report. We're going to get their starting lineup. So I don't want to get too crazy here. But if I'm right, then I expect Kada to start and be 20% owned or so. I think Drew Holiday will look pretty good at 5K, assuming he plays, regardless of the status of Jaylen Brown and Derek White. I definitely like Derek White the least if he's in, but he's still Derek White. He's still a fantasy point per minute guy playing 30-plus minutes. He's good. I like Jaylen Brown if he's in, and I like Jason Tatum if he's in. Tatum is pulling 30% ownership. That works for me, and he should. I got him in 30% of my lineups. But the status of those guards will completely depend on how much we like Peyton Pritchard It'll depend on how much we like Sam Hauser. Assuming it's Kata starting, that'll be the path we want to go. In theory, it could be Luke Cornett at 3,900, so he could potentially look better. There's no way to talk about Boston right now. 4 of their main 7 dudes are up in the air today for either not playing yesterday or potentially not playing on a back-to-back. So I don't know what to do for Boston. We need boatloads of information. My expectation is that when the 130 injury report comes out, we get Horford out, Porzingis out, White questionable, Brown questionable. That would be my guess. So that's where we stand for Boston. I don't really want to dig in any further because I don't think there's any value in it right now. That's why we spent 20 minutes talking about potential Jalen Green contract trades. So then we need to do this. Now we can talk about it. You guys ready to cyber? Everybody loves a good cybering. That's not even really like a phrase anymore compared to where we used to be in like the late 90s, early 2000s. You guys want to cyber ASL? Be in some chat room. Freshman year of high school. 15. Male. Oh man, that probably gets really tough now. You don't even know what to write in the S portion. 15. Male. Pennsylvania. Just chatting it up. Sup girl that's probably a guy. Lying about it in some IRC chat room. Oh my God. The Wild West. The Wild West. But we're going to cyber a different way today, guys. You guys see it on the screen right now. The Black Friday promo has completed. But you guys know in social situations, Black Friday goes away. Cyber Monday shows up. And that's what we're doing here. 50% off your first payment of any light single sport package. So it's not the full blast that you get from getting our max packages. It's a little bit more stepped on, but this is going to get you in at a cheaper price point. If you've wanted to get behind the paywall and get projections and ownership, the light versions of our sim tools, our premium Discord, no matter what, this gets you in the door. This gets you in the door. Cyber24 is the promo code. One big word. CYBER24. Now, there's a link in the description of this video, or at least there should be, but if there's not, enter that promo code while you check out for any light package, any single sport. If you're watching this, I assume it's basketball. You can get that for 50% off. This deal ends on Wednesday. So it's not going to be around very long. You get today, you get tomorrow, you get Wednesday, then it goes away. And then at that point in time, probably not going to have any deals for a minute. We've hit the big ones. We've hit Black Friday, we've hit Cyber Monday. Probably not going to be one for a bit. So if you want to get in for a week or a month right now at 50% off, this is the way to do it. Let's see. Tyler Ryan, do you think any NBA player is good? Yeah. I think a lot of NBA players are good. Big ups to Jason Tatum, Nikola Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. There's a lot of good NBA players. I judge players on what I perceive their ability to be if they were playing on a team that had title aspirations. That is my barometer. There are guys that are really good regular season players that I think have no chance to participate positively in a playoff series. There are some guys that aren't good regular season players that are essential type options in playoff series. But I think a lot of guys just get verbally overrated. Like Tyler Hero, for example. Really good regular season player. Talented offensive guy. Tough to play him heavy minutes on a team that really wants to do something in the playoffs because of how bad he is defensively. Yeah, Sabonis. Great example the opposite way. Really good regular season player. Fantastic floor raiser. Going to do a lot of work. Going to be out there a lot. When you get to the playoffs, you're doomed. Because he can't protect the rim or stop anybody from getting the most efficient shots possible. Playoff Jimmy to a degree. I mean, I don't look at him. That's more of like an effort level in the regular season than anything else. But also, Not anymore. I mean, he's not the bubble guy that did it. We're many years past that. But yes, to a degree. Because playoff basketball fits Jimmy Butler's skill set better than regular season basketball. When you have to work to create your own shot and the mid-range plays a higher value, that plays into Jimmy Butler more in a playoff series. In the regular season, teams are going to give you mid-rangers all day because they're not as good. Yes, and Sabonis can be ignored on the perimeter. It's why I like those connector type guys so much, because that's what my goal is, to get to the playoffs and be successful. So when you have those guys, honestly, like a Middleton back in the day when I made that statement about him and Butler, we were talking about a guy that, like, when Giannis wasn't around, could get to 30% usage at neutral efficiency, could guard the other team's best player in stretches. Definitely a positive defensive option. Like, all those, when you have all those pieces that can fit together, it also makes it easier to put other people around him. Now, that's big. Now, the moment I said it, Middleton went to shit. Cyber Monday, Cyber 24 promo code, 50% off. All right, Brooklyn Nets. It's kind of like the Boston version. 7.5-point dogs in Chicago. Now, Brooklyn also on a back-to-back. We have no injury report. Dorian Finney-Smith has missed 3 of the last 4 and the most recent 2. Cam Thomas probably out. Noah Clowney probably out. Jalen Martin probably out. We don't know the status of Ben Simmons on the back-to-back. I took him out. He hasn't played them. Certainly could. I don't know the status of Zaire Williams. Totally going to know the status of Cam Johnson. Now, Brooklyn's getting all of the ownership. And I'm not going to dig into this as plays right now. 40% to Schroeder. 45 to Cam Johnson. 20 to Jalen Wilson. 15 to Dorian Finney-Smith. 35 to Claxton. 80 to Keon Johnson. 25 to Trendon Watford. Now, I'm guessing Zaire Williams isn't going to play. And yeah, Simmons got dinged up yesterday, only played 12 minutes. So I don't know. I obviously don't know. But I got 90% of Keon Johnson, 50 of Claxton, 50 of Schroeder, 50 of Cam Johnson, 40 of Trendon Watford, 15 of Dorian Finney-Smith, another 5 of Jalen Wilson. They're going to have the most ownership of any team today. I think that is a very safe bet because they're going to be missing a lot of dudes, but they get to play a really dog shit fast Chicago team. This game has a 233 total. It's the highest on the slate. It's got the second highest pace, but it's basically tied with Pels and Hawks. Bulls are losing 3 possessions. Brooklyn's gaining 3.2. The Bulls defense is one of the 5 worst in the league. We're going to be playing basically everybody that suits up for Brooklyn today. I just don't know officially who all those guys are going to be. But what you're going to be doing is playing a ton of Keon Johnson, a ton of Dennis Schroeder, a ton of Cam Johnson, a lot of Nick Claxton, Jalen Wilson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Trendon Watford. Depending on who's in and who's out, those guys are all going to be heavily owned. No team will be more owned than the Brooklyn Nets. I don't even have individual guys that I want to key on, even key on in this case. But it's bulk. I got 300% of the Nets. There's only 800 to go around. So it's a lot. It's a lot. It's everybody playing for Brooklyn today, basically. We just don't know who those bodies are yet. So deeper dive, we'll have a much better look at this. We're going to need the injury report. Should be 7:30 or should be 1:30, could be 2:30, somewhere in that neighborhood. You're going to get all of the Brooklyn Nets today. Who they specifically are is going to be determined by the injury report and whatever we get as the starting lineup. But be prepared to be rostering 2, 3, 4 Nets in everything you do. For the Bulls, it's basically the exact opposite scenario. They don't look very good. It's a pace down spot. Only Vooch got to double-digit ownership on the DraftKings side at 15%. Dosunmu and Giddey are both knocking on the door of 10. I got to 15% of Dosunmu, 10% of Giddey, a stray Jalen Smith lineup, a stray Talen Horton-Tucker lineup, and a stray Vooch lineup. I didn't get to Kobe White, who's questionable and could make all of this change. I didn't get to Levine, who looks fine. Now you're seeing Levine, Vooch, and Dosunmu all get to like 15% on FanDuel. No complaints. That's where they should be. But I don't see a single priority here coming from Chicago. Nobody that looks as good as like most of Brooklyn or Tatum or, whatever ends up getting there for the Pels. It's just not all that appealing. The pace down spot is a problem. Brooklyn's defense, even missing a lot of these guys, not that big of an issue right now. Now, if Claxton or something ends up out, it'll get a little bit worse. But defense for Brooklyn is not the problem here. It's their offense not being able to do anything. So I don't really see me taking a big stand on Chicago. We're probably going to need Kobe White to be out for that one to make us feel a little bit better about it. Phone's making noise. All right, schedule for the rest of the day, because I just saw Poker ask about it. NFL Strategy Show will be coming up at 10:15. You'll get Lothy and Matt Kajeski breaking down Monday Night Football. I'll be back with Spags tonight at 5:30. Greg and Eric will be on Live Before Lock at 6:30. And then Lothy and Gajeski will be back again at 7:30 for Live Before Lock. Christopher Key Cash with the super chat right now. Love to see it, and I know why it's coming. I appreciate you in a big way for reasons even bigger than that super chat. But Chris picked up a win in the fadeaway on DraftKings Friday night and grabbed a nice $50K payout. So let's clap it up. Got to see one of our own grab $50K on Friday. I can say very, very, very much from the heart. I know what that feels like, and I know how awesome it feels. So shout out to Christopher Key Cash in chat right now with the super chat with the big old dub on Friday. Those 50K ones, man, they hit different. They change the way you wake up in the morning on Saturday, that's for sure. So I hope you enjoyed it, man. I hope that helps you out. I hope it's good. Love to hear it. Big Fact said it. Who's next? Hopefully me. All right, final game. Hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. Lakers, Timberwolves. So we do not have a Lakers injury report. Austin Reeves didn't play yesterday. D'Angelo Russell didn't play yesterday. Cam Reddish didn't play yesterday. Now, 2 of those were for illness. We did get 13 minutes out of my boy, Jalen Hood-Schifino. Let's get this man into the rotation. Let's get Gabe Vincent's ass out of there. It's been dreadful so far. I was touting Hood-Schifino before the season started. Hasn't really participated in anything. They didn't pick up his option. It doesn't look good, but let's get Gabe Vincent out of there. So for the Lakers, I have no idea what they're doing here. None at all. Who knows? AD could be questionable. LeBron could be questionable. We don't know the status of Reeves, Russell, Reddish. Anything could be happening here, and I would believe it. We're not going to have Jackson Hayes. That much I know. We do have a bunch of ownership coming into AD and LeBron on FanDuel. They're both at 50. I greatly prefer AD to LeBron here. They're both 25% owned on DraftKings. It's about where I got them. I got 25% of AD and 30 of LeBron. I like these guys a lot more on the DraftKings side, or at least I like LeBron a lot more on the DraftKings side. But, Rui could need more than a 30-minute projection. I gave 29 minutes to Dalton Connect. That number could be a lot higher if Reeves and Russell and Reddish end up out again. Russell, if he's in, still looks interesting to me at 4,400 on the DK side. Reeves is going to be tough. He looks a lot better on FanDuel where he's $600 cheaper. But, let's say that Reeves and Russell are both out and Reddish plays. Well, then Reddish is probably going to look okay at 3,600. Maybe they're all out again, and we get 30 minutes out of Max Christie and 30 minutes out of Gabe Vincent. Those guys are going to look like really good value plays, potentially. There's nothing we can do here. Because we just have no idea who's playing. They were missing, let's call it 30, 55, call it 75 rotation minutes yesterday. And now we have no idea if those 75 rotation minutes are back or if anybody else is on it. We could see a different Q tag pop up. So this could look a little bit different depending on who's out. Like LeBron could look a lot better to me. Since I have them in, I don't have LeBron's rates getting the bump that he would get if Russell and Reeves weren't playing. So that he's going to look better if that changes. But we need that information first. It's possible the Lakers look completely different than what I have in here right now. They're going to look good no matter what. But they could look really good. They could look Brooklyn good if this breaks the right way. Then finally, for Minnesota, this is the easiest part. We have their injury report. Nobody that matters is on it. They only play an 8-man rotation every night when it's legitimate. So we're getting 10 to 15% ownership to Rudy Gobert. I just want to put this out there right now. With the amount of minutes that Rudy Gobert is playing right now, I said right now way too many times there. With the amount of minutes that Rudy Gobert is playing, he's averaging 39 a game over his last 5 and 37 a game over his last 10. I went 37 minutes. I still only got to 15%, but he fascinates me. The problem with Rudy Gobert right now is that he just simply doesn't do anything on offense anymore. He's got like a 13% usage rate. But the price tag is balancing that out. I'm fascinated by Gobert. The best play, unequivocally, is Mike Conley. Came back after missing those games, played 32 minutes and then 33 minutes. He's just playing 30 minutes or more now. I went 31. That might be light. I got to 60% of him. He's 50% owned on DraftKings. He's 65% owned on FanDuel. To me right now, Mike Conley is the best play on the slate. He's the easiest guy to get to, the easiest guy to put in a lineup, the first guy you're putting in every cash option. I like Randall a little bit. Revenge narrative alert against the Lakers. 17% owned. He's 7,700. He's 30% owned on FanDuel. Looks good to me. Ant is 9K on FanDuel across guard and forward. He's 25% owned. Completely agree with that. Naz Reid's getting 15% ownership. That works for me. I did get a little bit of him. So I'm getting Gobert. I'm getting Randall. I'm jamming Mike Conley. And I'm getting some Naz Reid. I find it difficult to get to DiVincenzo and Walker. DiVincenzo's been bad. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is not the best per minute guy. Jaden McDaniels just has random minutes every night. Conley came back. McDaniels dropped back down to like 25. Minnesota needs to start Naz. Well, that's not going to happen. So we don't have to worry about that one in any way. Yeah, Gobert's ability to catch certainly not helping him in any way. But at least we can talk about Minnesota easily. It's the same rotation no matter what. But we do have to be aware they could put one of these guys on the injury report as questionable when they get to 130. They have an injury report submitted already, but I would not be surprised at all to see Mike Conley get put on there as questionable today just because he's Mike Conley. I don't expect anything. I think we're going to get the normal 8 guys, but I trust nothing. I trust nothing. Completely trust nothing. By the way, just for everybody that cares, McConley, Conley, Edwards, McDaniels, Randall, Gobert. They've been plus 6.5 across 400 possessions so far this season. They're 60th percentile offense, 60th percentile defense. It's still okay. It's still working. Their other lineups with Randall out there have been good. Their biggest problem has been when Conley has been off the floor. Their second most used lineup brings in DiVincenzo in the Conley place. That's a negative 21. That one's been tough. And it's all offense. It's offense and defense. But DiVincenzo has been a bit of a struggle there, which is not at all what I saw coming. But yeah, they're still at 6.5 net rating. Like, let's do this. Need a D rating to be on there. All right, there we go. They've played the fourth most possessions of any 5-man group. Get ready for this, guys. Brunson, Hart, Bridges, Anunoby, Towns. A lower per 100 possession rating than the Minnesota starting five. Minnesota plus 6.5. Knicks plus 5.5. So we gotta pump the brakes a little bit. Hasn't been as bad as it seems. The plus 13 on Van Vliet, Green, Brooks, Smith, Şengün stands out as a holy shit, this team's really good. Obviously, Boston at plus 19. No surprises there. I love looking into this 5-man data because this tells you who's actually good. But we got to pump the brakes a little bit on Minnesota here. I think their depth might end up being a problem, and they need DiVincenzo to fix it, but it's a thing. Final thing I'm going to look at, since we got to get to that NFL show. Randall doesn't shoot well enough to open up passing lanes. So, kinda. These years have not been good. We need to find out if we can get 41% from 3 2021 Julius Randle back. But yeah, that's the problem. It's the respect more than anything else. That's really the issue. Because he doesn't take that many less than Towns. Like, he's taken like 5.5 per 75 possessions. Towns last year was only at 6. So it's the same volume. Randall just doesn't make it. It's a good call, Pete. There we go. That's where we're at. NBA strategy show in the books. Cyber24 is the promo code. NFL strategy show coming up next, 10:15, Monday Night Football breakdown. Dave Loughran, Matt Kajeski. They're giving you guys the goods. I'll see you guys on the deeper dive at 5:30. Have some fun, everybody. Talk to you guys later.